Hello, this is a good place to start. It's a good video. You're at the right channel with the right person. If you listen to me, you're gonna get much better insight than anybody else, anywhere else online. I can say that because I'm just like you and I implement all the things I say. So, you want to overcome negative thoughts. A lot of people have this issue and it sucks. It drains you every single day. There's nothing like going to work. You go through that exhausting day. Then you got to deal with those negative people. You get the negative thoughts in your head, like over and over again. There's like all the external. You just like, what am I doing with my life? I'm a nobody. You know, all these thoughts that suck. You have to understand that they're just a sign, and they're a sign that you need to improve. Don't just ignore these thoughts. They are obviously, they mean something. The way you feel everything being crap, it does mean something. It means you need to improve, and it's a good sign. Take that as it is. But if you want to reframe your thoughts, you're going to have to start to do something differently then. You have to start taking some self accountability. If you want to stop the negative thoughts here, you need to prove out there that you're different. Your brain, your subconscious brain is like another person. And they're not going to change their thoughts until you take the action to prove them otherwise. Like, for example, you want to go to the gym, or you want to fix your diet, or you want to start a business, or you want to talk to somebody about something and you haven't done it for ages, like maybe you need to break up or something, and you're just like, you look at yourself as this person who struggles and like, oh, I'm a nobody, everything's bad, and blah, blah, blah. All these negative thoughts about that. Okay, those are accurate. They do suck. Like all of them, you suck, everything sucks, like whatever. But if you want to change that, you want to change your situation, this is the hard part for sure, especially at the beginning. But if you can make it work, you you start to compound. Start to compound, and then once you reach the boom point, it's easy mode from there. But if you want to change your negative thoughts, stop thinking so poorly about yourself, you need to start understanding that you need to take some self accountability. Not many people have this. If you want to be different, especially for this 2026, and you want to be, special or whatever for once, you're tired of repeating, and you really want to make this year mean something, then you gotta start to understand it's all about self accountability. Have you taken the right actions yet? I already have a video, but if you want to take the right actions, it starts off like you're level one discipline at first, you know? Like you're starting right now at level one discipline. You want to stop the negative thoughts, you need to prove that you're somebody else. You need to actually change your situation. You need the external, just even slightly, to build up the internal, right? Even if it's like 10 minutes of work, then you can kind of 10x that internally, right? If you take it the right way. So if you do some work for 10 minutes, like you just sit down or something, and then you finish a task that you really didn't want to do, and you didn't feel like it explicitly, but you use discipline or whatever to overcome that task, and then you apply yourself properly and everything, right? So you actually do the work properly. You don't mess around with this sort of stuff. You don't try and be distracted and pretend it's work. Actually, make sure you just sit down, 10 minutes of focused work. Once you've done that, just start listening to some music or something like that makes you feel positive or empowered and feel good about the fact that you did that. Write down in your journal or anything else, maybe if you want, like whatever works for you. But this is now the empowerment stage. You have evidence. Now you're empowering yourself based on the evidence, right? It's all about building the evidence and then 10xing the evidence internally, right? And then once the internal then is built up, you can show it off externally. So this is going to be like you sit around, you do the work, you listen to some music, you feel better about yourself and everything. And then from there, that starts to build up, do a bit more work, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. It could be reading, for example, right? You read 10 pages, then next week you read 11 pages, and then the week after 12 pages, and you build it up until you read 20 or 30 pages a day or something, or however much you want to read, 100, whatever, do whatever you want. But then you start building all that stuff up, what's gonna happen? You feel good internally then. You write about, just try to focus on the positives, right? Like, let's say you're writing in your journal, talk about how good you felt after you completed the work. Talk about how good everything seems to be after you've done it, right? Like you write it down and you're like, damn, I actually did that, and start feeling good about yourself. Like, yeah, I'm capable. I can do this. I can change my life. Start to think like this. Start to become the identity you want to be and start to really apply yourself because this is really dependent. You got to be accountable here. This is dependent on you and how well you take this, on how well you can work and build that evidence. You don't got to do level 99 discipline stuff, work 10 hours straight away a day, like crazy maniac. No, you're level 1 and you got to work to level 2, level 3, level 4 and take it like that. Your main goal really here would be not quitting and building up the evidence. You need evidence and you don't have anything. So you got to build up that sort of evidence for the identity you want to be. And then once you build up that identity, then the negative thoughts you'll realize really start to go away because you have evidence. Some guy says something negative about you, right? Or somebody else says something negative, or something bad happens, or whatever. You're gonna look inside yourself, look inside your mind, look at the evidence and everything of who you are, and you won't be half as affected at least. If not complete, like you could become invulnerable, maybe even, right? To like some guy says something negative, you'll be like 99% invulnerable. Usually you're never 100%, like 1% of it still affects you, like penetrates a little bit, but if you repair really quickly anyways, right? But 99% of you could just completely, like, it just bounces off you, like whatever, just shrug it off because you know who you are. You've done the work, you've built the evidence. It's kind of hard to deny, right? Because like when you haven't done anything, your brain looks at it and it's like, well, what are you talking about? There's no evidence. I'm looking at nothing here. It's just like nothing. You like if you wrote down everything you've done, since the start of this year, maybe it's just nothing. And then last year, nothing, nothing, nothing. Like you just have a blank book, for the last 5, 10 years. Okay, fine, but you got to build up the evidence. Give your brain something, like give evidence for once. Write it down. Write down what you've done. Like you might as well do that, sure. Like of some form of journaling or whatever, right? As well. Write down everything you've accomplished every single day and then create this like list of evidence you can use. Anytime you feel bad, you have those negative thoughts, look at it and like, no, I'm not like this person. I'm not gonna listen to that subconscious brain, and whatever it's telling me, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna reprogram it, right? I'm gonna look at this. I've done this. This is who I really am, And if it's really continuing, like you feel really down, listen to some empowering music and just absorb it, Like if you do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just absorb who you are. Look at the evidence, just feel it, right? Like if you wear headphones or whatever, right? And then if you take all of that, do it over the course of a few months or whatever, I think that will really help you out. And then especially don't take anything that anybody says or anything that happens to you that's out of your control and isn't really your fault too personally, because if you take it too personally, it's going to be a really big issue. You really have to deflect it. Like try to, like, if you take it personally, do try to like change it and deflect it, like be like, this is a test of who I am or something. You can reframe it like that, but ideally you just look at it like, this isn't, it's not worth bothering with this person, or it's not worth bothering about this situation. I'm gonna go back and do what I do best, and I'm gonna look at the evidence and I know who I am. You look at that, you apply yourself, and I think honestly that's going to be the best way to remove those negative thoughts, because it really, really sucks if you're constantly draining yourself. It sucks at first, right? But if you level up eventually, you're going to compound, right? Let's say you start compounding really at level 50 or something, right? For 50 levels, it's going to suck, right? You apply my advice and it's just going to suck and you're like, it's not working, man. Like what is he talking about? What's this crap that he's talking about? It doesn't even work for me. It's because you haven't done it for long enough, do it for 3 months, and then if the negative thoughts don't go away or whatever, then like maybe say something in the comments or whatever, right? But like, and then I can discuss with it further. But you need to apply it for a certain amount of time and really do everything step by step. Have you actually done it, or are you just going to complain or whatever? You don't want to be another complainer either, right? Because now when you start to complain, you just start to externalize those thoughts more, and then the external bounces back at you, and then it's just multiplicative, of your own negative thoughts, and that sucks then, right? Your goal is to create evidence that is undeniable. If you're so capable You cannot ignore that. You can't ignore that. Try your best. Like, you'll have a shit day or something. Somebody will say something nasty to you, and you're like, oh, but then you remember, oh wait, like, why do I care? I'm this guy, like why do I care? I've done this stuff. I've proven I'm capable. I've proved that I'm deserving or whatever. You got to look at it like that, you know? Like why am I listening to them? Like honestly, if you apply that, you really do start to change or whatever, right? And then that's when you really change the negative thoughts. Just saying like if someone just tells you, oh, just have positive thoughts, do positive affirmations or whatever in the mirror, go ahead, I guess, if that's your thing. But you know that doesn't work. You need reality. You need reality to prove you. You can't like rely on, just nothing. You know? Like you have no evidence. I'm gonna keep repeating that. You need evidence. You need reality to back you up. You got nothing now. You got nothing to back you up. And you're wondering why you have negative thoughts, right? It's because everything else is draining around you, right? But when you start to build up, like even if you just think about your environment, right? Like you can even think about it in almost objective level. If you clean your room, then automatically you're gonna feel better because you walk in, right? And everything's like, I made that bed today, And then, okay, my desk is clear. And, there's nothing really laying around. You can look at that. This is all proof. This is all proof that you're capable. And then, this becomes self-affirming and everything in of itself, You don't need to say stuff to yourself. You need to feel it and do it. All of this relies really on just your action. Put in the work. Put in the work. Take some self-accountability here. The reason you have negative thoughts right now is because you haven't put in the work. You've got nothing to prove that you're deserving of positive thoughts yet. But when you do the work, when you prove that you're capable, actually do it for the first time, and then you start to build it up. Like, you got to take your time with this. It's not going to be straight away. Like, when you get your time, when you get your free time and it's time to do work, you're probably not going to feel like it. Okay, that's fine. What you're capable of right now is the minimum action that your brain would do for a month, right? Can you do this thing every single day for a month with all the crap going on, right? Once you can start to really build that up, then move on to level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, or whatever, right? Like you can try that as well and everything, right? If you try out, because I have another video about like if you just sit around as well in your boredom and stuff. If you're really bored and you remove all the distractions, it's a really great way of doing way more work if you want to, jump up straight away. Like that's also great. But like, okay, if you want to apply discipline, actually just straight up do work, like, okay, just, straight up, then, okay, you have to take some self accountability, be disciplined, sit there and start to level up your discipline, or whatever, right? But, if you want to jump up a little bit more, here's a little secret that could really help you out. And I don't know, like maybe a few people talk about it, but they don't talk about it. Like it's not that effective, right? Like you really got to, lock in with this anyways. But if you like when it's your free time, you just sit there, right? So set a stopwatch timer first off. Then what you want to do is remove all your distractions all around you, like your phone, like pretty much like people, I guess, anything around you that's like distracting, you know? And then like just sit in your room, sit down on a chair, just sit down on a chair in silence or away from people, and then sit there, right? Okay, you started the stopwatch timer. Great. This I call chair sitting, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but if you hear me out, this could really change your life, right? I call it chair sitting. I just fully take on the literal, like, what you're doing. You can also call it locking yourself in your room or just being bored. But it's called chair sitting. You just sit there, and then the way it works, the reason why it works is your options. Okay, so this is going to be called work. You're doing work right now, right? If you're sitting in the chair and you've got the stopwatch timer right now, the stopwatch timer shows you how long you've been working. And so long as you're sitting in your chair and you're not distracted on anything, you're not on social media, you're not watching anything, like you're not, I don't know, eating some junk food or something, right? And you're just sitting on your chair, fully taking in the silence, absorb the silence, just bask in it. Just for a moment, take in the silence, right? Take in the boredom, feel the boredom. You're getting bored, right? Like, oh, like, what am I doing? This is silly. This is stupid, right? Oh, why did I listen to him, Like, how did I even get this far to just sit in this chair and do nothing? Okay, take it in, bask it all in. Great. You basking in it? Okay. And then when like take like the choices you have basically here, basically, right? Like usually what happens is you think you're not going to do anything then, right? Like if you fully commit to this, you just think, okay, like the whole idea is the minimum of what you're supposed to do is just sit in the chair and then let the stopwatch timer run, right? And then that's going to be like how long you worked. So all you have to do technically is just sit in the chair, but here's the magical thing, you never do that. 99% of the time you're going to do some kind of crazy productivity thing. You're going to transform your life because you're going to do everything. Like it's going to be like you sit down and then it's gonna be 10 minutes and you're like, you're gonna get fed up. And then you're gonna start to do some work. Work counts as sitting in your chair, right? Like, it's not a distraction. That's a positive thing. That's what we're trying to do. You wanna do work. This is what the whole intention is, right? 99% of the time you're gonna end up doing work after like you sit in boredom for long enough because it's gonna be uncomfortable. The secret here is us humans hate boredom so much that like we'll do anything. Like, because if you know about that experiment where humans literally electrocute themselves, with a red button because they're so bored, like that you need to understand that. Like, if you sit there, if you're bored enough, eventually you're gonna like do it, even if you don't like it. You just end up doing it. Like, why am I doing this? Like I don't want to do it, but you end up doing it because you're so bored. Humans hate boredom so badly, they'd rather electrocute themselves with the red button. There's like a whole study about it. I don't know exactly what it's called or whatever, but I've heard about it a few times or something, I would think. There's like a red button that they had a bunch of people test, and like people would rather like they had to do was just sit in boredom, and they'd always press the button pretty much. Like so many people would just press the button because they hated it, and some of them did it like 2 times or whatever, and they're like, yeah, I hate the electrocution or whatever. They hate the feeling of it, right? But they do it anyways. Like, why did they do it? Because they hate boredom. If you can understand that boredom is really your secret to limitless productivity, then that's going to be something game changing, right? So if you take this, all you really have to technically do, and what counts as work, is just sitting in your chair. But really, what's going to happen after 10 minutes is you're going to end up doing way too much work. You're going to like change everything. Your brain, what it starts to do, this is how you know it starts to work. Your brain is going to start to think like about what you could do. Oh, you could do this thing, or you could do that thing, or you could do that thing. Like, oh, what are we doing? It's going to start to give these thoughts. And you're going to start to think a little bit more about, oh, I guess I could do that. Maybe I might consider it. And then eventually you're like, I guess why not? Like, and then that's when it works. And then before you know it, you've done that thing, done that thing, done that thing, and now you spent 3 hours working or something. And then you're like, okay, wait, and then you get some resistance. Okay, sit back on the chair. You get some resistance, sit back on the chair, and you're like, you think about not wanting to do it, and then eventually 10 minutes later again, you're gonna be back at work for another 3 hours, and then you ended up doing like 6 hours of work when you barely do 10 minutes. So try that out. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. Otherwise, just apply discipline, take some self accountability for this stuff, and then take it in steps and level up. Right? Do what you're capable of. Do what you can do for a month straight every single day, and you cannot quit. You cannot fail. There's no way you could possibly fail because it's so easy. That's the other way then, right? And a bunch of other people would talk about this online and stuff, right? Yeah, that sort of trailed off a little bit from the negative thoughts, but it is sort of important to understand what you can't really erase those negative thoughts without evidence. You need something external to prove against the internal, right? Because you're always battling inside your mind with the negative thoughts. You're always thinking some shit like, and this is bad. This is bad. You cannot really have anything. Your mind is a fortress. You can't have any negative thoughts really entering. Otherwise, it starts to poison you. And then no wonder your life sucks, right? But if you start to build up the evidence, then you start to build up positive thoughts. And the idea is that you have so many positive thoughts that it overwhelms your mind. Like there's no negative thought, there's no space for your negative thoughts anymore because all you're thinking is positive. You feel empowered, you feel confident, you're doing the work, you have everything to prove that you're a capable person. You have the evidence to suggest that you are who you think you are. And then it's undeniable. And then all that happens, you start everything you do, it becomes a feedback loop. You do something, then you feel great from it, you 10x it, right? You feel awesome, you're empowered, then you do more work because you feel empowered, and then that 10x's, and then you're like, you feel really great, and then you start improving your life. Here's the crazy thing, you improve your life, and then you feel great about yourself, and you keep feeling better, and then there's no negative thoughts left, because there's no space for them. They get squeezed out. There's no space. Like, all the positive thoughts start coming in because the external is overwhelming, and then the external, like the negative thoughts have nowhere to go but out. They just squeeze out like a sludge, like a slime, you know? Everything's gone, it drips out of you or whatever, right? This really vivid description for some reason, but ignore that. Like, just, you know, you got to imagine it, I guess, like that, right? You're trying to force it out, like force it through your sheer will, through your sheer effort. And then eventually that goes away, and then you can really start to go onto the path of transforming your life. Then you've reached the top 1%, and now you have to just align your reality with what you want it to be. Now it's just fully like, just gotta wait my time out. Gotta wait until this thing reaches the boom point. This thing could take 10, 15 years or whatever, right? So, you know, you do your first year of this and then you really feel great or whatever. Now you just gotta roll on. Don't give up. Don't give up. Everybody fails to give up. And they all give up at here. Like, you gotta imagine the compound curve. Everybody gives up before anything's gone anywhere. And they don't know, because all they see, they're at the bottom. They think it's gonna stay like that forever because all they see is the linear. But if you've ever understood and studied how the compound curve works, you gotta understand that nothing happens for most of the time. But once you reach the X point, the boom point, I call it, right? That's when everything starts to compound all the way up. And it keeps going up, up, up. And then from there, what happens is either it becomes just a straight line and just doesn't stop going up, or it goes up and it sort of plateaus away. But you're still way higher than what you were from the beginning. And then you can probably apply all the knowledge you've built up from going up like that, or whatever resources or whatever, into other things. In a way, no matter what, you've compounded up and you can keep compounding. But you got to reach that boom point, and that thing takes a long time, a lot of patience, and it really tests you. It's not going to be easy, and this is why most people fail. It is really, 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 really hard what you're trying to do to change your life, to change your thinking. The fact that you're here already makes you in the top 10%. But if you want to be in the top 1%, you got to apply my advice. You got to really take some self-accountability, but you got to understand this is going to be really, really hard. And that's okay. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. What you really got to focus on is not giving up. This is all just a journey. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And it's not always fair. But if you put in the work and you're patient, you give yourself the best possible chance of succeeding. And that's all you can really do for yourself. You've got to apply yourself, leverage, direction, everything. You know, try to maximize your leverage. Try to go in the right direction, the right model, do the right things or whatever, right? You know, and do the work. Put in the effort, the energy, you know, and then apply time. That's your formula. And then from there, you know, the universe plays out, and then you see whether you succeed or not, right? But you'll have a way higher chance than if you just did nothing. And that's all you can really hope for and do. But remember, like, this is all up to you anyways. If you want to make this thing work, you got to make it work through your will. You got to make it work through your own will. That's how you get rid of those negative thoughts. You squeeze them out through sheer will and effort. Overwhelming evidence will crush those negative thoughts that you have. That's how you win. Anyways, yeah, so I'm going to be wrapping up the video here. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something valuable from it. I'm always here to try and give valuable advice. I'm always trying to improve my videos. So give me advice, whatever. Like, this is if anybody watches it. There's a good chance I'm talking to myself right now, but that's fine. Whatever. You know, I'm part of this journey as much as you are, but I'm going to share what I've learned from it. And I'm going to try and educate you, whatever, from like what's worked for me or whatever, right? I want to give you real advice as much as I can, right? At least motivate you or something, you know, and it kind of make an impact, you know? I don't want to just motivate people and then it fizzle out afterwards. I want to like really make an impact if I can. So, you know, hopefully like subscribe if you really want to, you know, support me or whatever, because obviously I'm super small right now. So I'd really appreciate it, and like my video, just boost the algorithm for me so more people can hear this and share this with anybody else you know to hopefully help and transform their life, you know? But that's going to be the end of the video, and I hope you enjoyed it. So good day and good evening wherever you are. Goodbye.